If you're about to move abroad, there's a piece of advice you might hear from time to time. Give yourself time and space to land. And if you're anything like me before moving halfway around the world, you might think, yeah, that sounds fair, probably good advice for some people, but I'll be fine. Because the kind of person who decides to leave their life behind and move to another country usually isn't someone who plans to sit around adjusting for months. You're about to do something that most people will never do in their lives. This is courageous. You don't feel like you need to sit around and adjust, wasting time doing nothing. Oh man, I feel you. I was literally saying the exact same thing before moving to Australia. The idea of finally arriving at the destination I had planned for all this time to then take time to adjust? That sounded like complete nonsense to me. I felt the excitement and the energy to start something new. This was not a light choice after all, and I didn't want to waste any of my valuable time and capacities just, hang around. If someone had told me back then to give myself the first 100 days to land properly, I honestly don't think I would have listened. And other expats I'm talking to are saying the exact same thing. In this video, I will explain to you what I wish I had fully known and understood before going. And stick with me because I am absolutely not going to advise you to sit around and do nothing upon arrival. Quite the contrary. I do strongly believe that what I'm about to tell you is key in understanding what you simply cannot know from the position you are in now. There's a very specific psychological state that we are in before making a big life change like this. You may recognize it. It's that feeling of excitement, of anticipation. You feel courageous and optimistic and open to adventure. Of course, you also have questions, but overall you feel very capable. That mindset is not accidental, but it is very different from normal circumstances. Allow me to geek out for a moment while I explain how this all works, because I am convinced that understanding this fully will help you in your situation right now. You see, in most circumstances, our brains focus on threat detection and risks. It's actually pretty simple. Our ancestors had two ways they could misinterpret roughly any situation. The first interpretation error is not seeing any danger where there actually is. The second one is seeing danger where there is none. Now let's imagine one of our ancestors walking the same path as usual from, maybe picking berries or carrying water back to the village. But today something is different because there's a loud snap in the fields. Ancestors who made the first type of error, maybe not worrying about it too much, saying, it's probably just a bird, they would have been hurt or even eaten if it was actually a dangerous saber-toothed tiger. The ancestor who would worry when there's actually not so much of a problem would be safe. Sure, they would have gotten scared for nothing and maybe a little stressed, but at least they were alert enough to not become saber-toothed tiger lunch. And that is the main difference between these two people. The second ancestor survived and passed on their genes. But any eaten ancestors, well, not so much passing on of genes anymore. This means all of our ancestors were the cautious type, the ones seeing the danger, and so we also inherited that tendency to be cautious and see the danger and see more of the negative around us. It's literally what kept us alive. And now it's getting interesting because this is clearly not what is happening when we are on the verge of making the big leap of any massive life change, like becoming an expat or any other drastic life change for that matter. Sure, we may have dived deep into the research and finding as much information as we can to make sure that this decision is actually safe beforehand. But once we made the decision, something magical happens. Our brains now switch into a whole different mode that helps us move forward into big life chapters, creating a forward momentum. And to some degree, it even makes us a little blind. This is a big deal. We can compare the effect with falling in love with someone or becoming a parent. For all these rather risky endeavors, it's necessary that we keep our focus on the potential. If we were fully aware of every challenge and every disruption that could come with those experiences, many of us might hesitate or never even go for it. Let's take parenthood, for example. If we were focusing more on the labor pain, the diapers, the snot and other bodily fluids, the sleepless nights, the worries for their health and their future, the terrible twos, the damaged walls and furniture, the temper tantrums in the supermarket, your child and you also getting sick from daycare bugs all the time, the money it costs to keep them alive and thriving, all of the things that you can't do because of this choice of becoming a parent, and having to invest pretty much 2 decades or sometimes even more to raise a living, somewhat decently functioning human being. And by the way, never being able to 100% be successful at this job ever. Seriously, if this was in the forefront of our minds the whole time, the human race would go extinct very quickly. So instead, our minds focus on possibility, excitement, and meaning. And that incredibly powerful mindset is what allows us to make bold decisions and move forward with them. And when you move abroad or are about to, this is the same. And this comes also with a specific blind spot about ourselves. When we move abroad, of course, we are very aware that lots of things will change around us and that this will ask something different from us. Most people are even aware that such massive change will have its effects on our identity forever in the long run or after we return. This is a life-changing event, and we know it. But what we often don't realize is that some of the most stable parts of our identity are actually deeply connected and rooted in the environment that we are living in, and that's what we're leaving behind. So some of that, of our identity, can't come with us. And it's hard to fully grasp that in the moment. Some of the things you can't pack in your suitcase, so to say, is your sense of competence, your sense of direction, and the way you know how to create momentum and movement in your life. These things don't just merely exist in you, they are in constant reinforcement systems with your environment, and your identity is in a constant two-way communication with your environment. When you arrive somewhere new, a lot of these things reset because the environment is so vastly different. I also talked about this more in my video, why moving abroad can make you feel less capable. So go check that one out after this one if you're interested to learn that. Another thing you leave behind, or in many cases lose along the way in the first few weeks, is that forward driving brain mechanism of seeing more of the possibilities, the adventure, all the positive things. It's very well possible that you will start seeing more of the risks, the negatives, and the things that are not feeling so good after that first honeymoon phase. And we may already even know that this will be coming. We may, as part of our preparation, get shown the adjustment curves of cultural adjustment. You know, the one where it says that we will start with the honeymoon phase and then follows the culture shock and then other phases. And we see it and we go, yeah, I know how that works. This is not my first time doing something challenging. We also find it so normal and logical that we feel prepared enough by simply understanding and acknowledging that it won't all be great all the time, that things will happen. So we accept that as a given. But here's what they don't tell you. When you're on the verge of making the jump, it's almost impossible to imagine you will lose that momentum that you feel internally now. We explained a large part of this mechanism already. You just know that you will be able to make this a massive success because when you are in that before the jump mindset, you are indeed fully capable of moving mountains. Now, this brain of yours in the let's make the jump mode not only lets you see and experience that power and all that positive stuff, but it also makes you feel that life and who you are yourself will be like that forever. It makes the shortcut, the assumption that the key parts of who you are now will travel with you. That's the blind spot. We make the assumption that our identity is just picked up and landed somewhere else. And you know that this happens all the time. Remember the last time that you were super motivated to make a change in your habits? Maybe you wanted to lose weight or quit doom scrolling or whatever it was for you. The moment that you make that decision and commitment to yourself, there's such a huge surge of motivation and dedication, determination, that you feel 100% convinced that this motivation will never change and that you will now, for once and for all, conquer this thing. Your brain does what brains do. It really wants to help you move forward in this thing that is clearly important to you. But tomorrow, or in a few weeks, life happens, and all of a sudden that insane power that you did truly have is now fading again, and the brain goes into normal life mode. Now, moving abroad is, of course, vastly different than trying to stop wasting time on cat videos, but the point here is the same. No matter how convincing the forever empowerment feels in the moment, and no matter how stable you feel in who you are, it's not possible to take all of that with you exactly in the same form, yet your brain doesn't allow for you to see that yet. And if this wasn't enough, there's another layer that amplifies this dynamic. When you move abroad, you give up a lot. I don't know what that is exactly for you personally, but for most people, it involves things like career and perhaps status, their social network, a place they used to call home with all of its familiarities and culture and systems and conveniences and sometimes also a language and many other things. And because the move involves so much that you have to sacrifice, there is a natural psychological response. This move better be worth it. It needs to become something meaningful, something successful. Most of us measure success using the frameworks that we already know and what society in general is focused on. Things like career, achievement, progress, especially if these are things that made us feel capable and competent before, part of who we are. So often we bring those familiar measures of success straight into the new environment, which is why many people feel the urge to hit the ground running and, perhaps plan to start job interviews immediately or continue demanding remote work schedules or take on major responsibilities early. Especially high-achieving people are very used to making things meaningful by performing well quickly. And from the before the jump place, this feels and is completely validated. It's proactive and in line with your capabilities. It feels like you're taking control of your new life without wasting any time creating that meaning. And in most environments, that patterns works incredibly well and powerful. But during a major life transition like this, it can work against you. And this may very well be the key point here. The mindset that helps you make the leap is not the mindset that helps you land. Moving abroad is not just getting a new address. You are going through a full system transition where your brain is learning a new environment and your identity is recalibrating. Your emotional system is processing the loss of familiar structures and the excitement of new ones at the same time. Your brain is literally going to physically change as this requires strengthening and reorganizing of neural pathways. And that process takes time, and the cognitive load is real and demanding. No matter how strong and capable you are, it's simply how human systems work. Your environment changed overnight. Your internal map of how life works doesn't update instantly as well. And if you would still be in that mode where you're charging forward with full speed and full power in the middle of this massive recalibration, you'd probably be getting yourself in trouble one way or another. Because, I'll repeat again, because the mindset that helps you make the leap is not the mindset that helps you land. The best way for you to increase the chances of success and meaning on the other side is acknowledging the new reality and working with that, even if you can't possibly see that happening to you personally from where you are now. So yes, I am suggesting a foundation building phase before you commit to major plans. And if you now feel that, yeah, I don't need that reflex, you now know why. Your brain is helping you make the jump. You can thank it for its marvelous job that it is doing for you, for the current you. And you can still take care of your future self that you just can't imagine just yet. And remember, I promised you I won't tell you to go and do nothing. That's not what you need. And if you're a high achiever, well, doing nothing is not an option anyway. So what would a foundation building phase look like? You may have heard the concept they use in politics and in the business world, where people in new leadership roles use the first 90 or 100 days as an observation period. Leaders are encouraged to learn the system before making major moves. This intention helps them stay curious and open without feeling they have to make decisions early on or prove their worth. And as a bonus, the environment also doesn't get overwhelmed by a whirlwind of change. Interestingly, this idea appears in other contexts too. In several cultures, the first weeks and months after a childbirth are treated as a protected phase. In China, there's a tradition called sitting the month, where new mothers focus almost entirely on recovery and bonding. In Korean culture, the first 100 days of a baby's life were historically seen as fragile, and so the period is seen as sacred. All focus goes to health and protecting this new life, literally and figuratively. Across many traditions, the underlying idea is similar. When something new enters life, the system needs time to stabilize before returning to full performance and full speed. When you're building a new life abroad, this is no different. You need another mindset to help you land. A solid foundation building phase consists of two main building blocks, the one before the jump and the one after the jump. Before the jump, it's important to refrain from making big commitments, even though they make complete sense from that place and time, as we talked about. I'm talking about big obligations not long after arrival, like high-pressure professional responsibilities. For example, an expat partner I spoke with told me that they deeply regretted planning important diplomatic visits in the first few weeks after they arrived. I recommend staying away from anything that is not easy to adjust when you need to, like committing to a deadline for your work that you will now deliver remotely. Acknowledge that your brain is not allowing you to feel what your future self will experience, and building in flexibility in your future plans, actions, and commitments is the most considerate thing that you can do for yourself. If you end up on the other side of the jump and you feel fully capable and open to doing that thing anyway that you now didn't commit to within a constrained time, that's absolutely fantastic. Then you have just underpromised and overdelivered. And if you don't feel that, absolutely fantastic. You didn't disappoint anyone, including your own needs. Once you're on the other side after the jump, it's useful to be more conscious and aware of the types of adjustments that are actually happening. This gives meaning and a systematic connection between all the tiny things that you are learning that may seem mundane or too simple to even mention. Let me give you a few examples. When you're learning how the local transportation system works, sure, that's convenient, but what you're also doing is building your independence. When you're meeting neighbors, that could be fun, but you're also establishing a safety net. When you're understanding how the healthcare access works, this is a form of risk mitigation. Processing your grief for lost routines is building emotional resilience at the same time. When we approach things this way, now you're already using part of that mindset that we talked about that you need to land, not the one that helped you make the leap. By the way, if we haven't met yet, my name is Eva. I am working with teams, high achievers, expats, and their partners navigating complex transitions. I'm using my degree in psychology and my training and certifications in neuroscience and behavior to guide individuals and organizations all over the world by helping them reclaim authorship and step into a life above the common. That's a life consciously lived, shaped, and fully expressed. I deeply believe that we all deserve to live life fully that way. And I'm dedicating all my time and energy to this mission, and I'm hoping that you can feel that through this video as well. Everything we talked about here is not just theory for me. Having moved abroad for a partner myself, I experienced a lot of these things personally, and I also made a lot of mistakes along the way. I've also seen what the cost of big commitments made from that place of positive anticipation have done, what damage and setback that has led to. This is why I care so deeply about these topics and why I want to help other people in similar situations not make the same mistakes. I realize I've given myself a massive challenge here because it's so hard to see this for yourself from that before the jump place. But I'll take it. If this video is helpful to you, first of all, you can really help support my work by clicking that like button, subscribing to this channel, and hitting that notification bell to not miss another video from me. But I also have something special for you that I'm very proud of. Because this phase is so dear to me, I've put together a tool to help you in that foundation building phase called Land Your Life Abroad. It's jam-packed with value. For example, it has suggested activities for every phase of those first 100 days to focus on. It has reflective questions, personal tracking, and solution ideas for common challenges. You can get your copy of Land Your Life Abroad completely free of charge through the link near this video. This is giving you another key to get that landing mindset. And I know that you're going to love it. Moving abroad is still one of the most expansive decisions you can make in your life. If you have the opportunity to do it and the willingness to step into the unknown, it can open worlds you didn't know existed. It's enriching and life-changing in many ways. To give yourself that exceptional life, what I call a life above the common, remember that it's not possible to see how your future self will be from that before the jump place. Your future self deserves your commitment to yourself for creating the best circumstances to experience that amazing life to the fullest. And that begins with a solid foundation, honoring the new life you're creating. And a foundation building strategy can be a very valuable tool to do so. So that's why I'm giving it away for you. Click that link now to receive your personal version of Land Your Life Abroad. And as always, remember to reclaim the life that you love, connect to what truly matters, and rise above the common.